Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybrook Family Farm. So today, before going to the market, I decided that I was going to come up in the woods and chat with you guys about a different alternate source of food for your animals and for your livestock. So there's so many mushrooms around here. I don't know, I'm just learning about how to identify mushrooms and stuff, but there is so many different types of mushrooms everywhere up here. So I'll have to look at my guidebook probably later today to look and see if I can identify any of the mushrooms that I'm walking past, because there's probably hundreds that I just walked past. So it's pretty cool. But so the alternate, I gotta watch out because there's a widowmaker up there. Definitely don't want to be standing underneath of it filming and then, film my own demise or something. But so one of the greatest and nearly free, if you have woods, food sources that you can have for goats, other livestock like cattle, sheep, rabbits, anything of the sort like that, is actually something called tree hay. I know that this is something that a lot of people have never ever even heard of because, well, they think it's new, but it's actually not. It's just something that is not frequently talked about because it's actually hundreds of years old, and nowadays we just feed everything grass hay, and it's much simpler and stuff to do that, and that's what the social norm is. But one thing that we have found is that our goats get tired of eating grass hay, and they actually go bananas for tree hay. So to make tree hay, what you do is you cut branches. This tree here is part of the neighbor's tree up there that had fallen down. It was a maple tree, which is one of the greatest trees for making tree hay, at least in our goat's opinion. So what you do is you would normally, unless if you have a tree fall down, you would take cuttings of the branches, like this here, and this is while they were still green. You would cut them, and then you would just bundle them up together and dry them in your garage, your barn. You just hang them up to dry, almost like you do with herbs, like the old-fashioned way of drying herbs. And they go crazy for it. So our goats, all they like to eat off of it pretty much is the very edges of the twigs and stuff, like this part here that is somewhat green still. They'll eat it to about the first 6 inches or so. But their favorite part, their all-time favorite part about tree hay is the leaves. Now for the rabbits, this is the cool part. The rabbits don't really care for the leaves. So what we do is we give the tree hay to the goats first. We give, usually in the wintertime and stuff, well, in the summertime, we give just a couple branches a day and stuff, and all the goats will pick through it and all that sort of thing. But in the wintertime, we try to make sure that there's at least one branch per goat that is given, so that way everybody has a chance, has, an ample amount of time to forage on them and all of that sort of a thing. But then what we do is the next day, when we're going to give them more tree hay, we pull the old branches out. We then let them sit for a day or two, and then we give them to the rabbits, because rabbits actually need to have sticks to chew on to basically help file their teeth down. So rabbits, because they are in the same family as rodents, their front teeth will continue to grow throughout their entire life. They never stop growing. If the rabbits do not have something to gnaw on, then they can actually cause themselves a lot of pain. I've seen different vet shows or whatever where people have actually had to take their rabbits in to get their front teeth cut down and filed down to being short enough that they can eat. But if a rabbit doesn't have ample things to chew on that, to help grind their teeth down, they can grow far enough that then they can't eat at all. So it's definitely very important. And I know a lot of people are very surprised that rabbits eat sticks. But in the wild, I live in Ohio, so it's a cold climate and stuff. We have winter time, and there's nothing that really grows in the winter time. Wild rabbits, what they survive on, since there's not really grass to eat and stuff, is they actually go around eating little branches and twigs and things of that nature. So in the wintertime, when we lived in town still, we had a big issue with rabbits in the wintertime going up to our blueberry bushes and other fruit trees and that sort of a thing, and any little branches that they could reach, they would just bite off. And it looked almost like somebody came with scissors or pruners to simply cut it. It was just a perfect straight line cut. It looked very much like a human did it. It took us a while to learn that rabbits are actually the cause of that. So our rabbits, we raise the New Zealand whites. They are the albino ones that have the, they're all white and they have the red eyes. But they go absolutely bananas for sticks. Like we could give them probably 5-6 sticks a day and they would be super stoked about that. If they have sticks and stuff, there's certain types that you cannot give them, and there's certain types of trees that you cannot make tree hay with. And those are basically the stone fruit trees. So like cherry trees, plum trees, you guys get the picture, I would hope by now. Those are actually highly toxic to rabbits and goats and that sort of a thing. Unless if you like leave them cure for, I think it's like 6 months, 9 months, something. It's a really long time. So we don't do anything with those branches and stuff. We just use them to help start fires and that sort of a thing. But the rabbits, it is really, really good for them to have, maple trees and oak trees and different fruit trees and poplars and all that sort of thing. If you guys are interested in what trees you can and cannot feed your animals, definitely do a Google search, because I only know the trees that grow native to my area and stuff. But so wild rabbits, they survive all winter on the inner bark of little branches and twigs and that sort of a thing. And our rabbits will do the same thing. So they will essentially chew off like the little tiny pieces of branches that I said that the goats will eat. The rabbits will happily eat the entire thing too. But when you get to bigger branches, like where it's this big around, they usually will just strip off all of the inner bark, and then there's just no bark left, which makes really good fire starters as well. We do heat with wood, so hence why I've mentioned about fire starters. But the sticks also, once they get small enough, the rabbits will end up knocking them down through the cage, and they'll get mixed in with the manure, so that also helps in the garden too, because a lot of times once the sticks get small, the rabbits will end up breaking them into small pieces, so it essentially will act as like a mulch for when we put it in the garden. So it's a super big win-win-win-win-win the whole way around with doing the tree hay. And if you also heat with wood, chances are you're going to have branches, you're going to have twigs and stuff, especially like if you have a wooded area like this. A lot of stuff with all the storms we've been having keeps falling. And when that happens, it's kind of a sad situation, but it's able to make an abundance of food. So it's hard to pick up on camera how much there actually is up here. But there's a big pile of branches over here. And then over there's a massive pile of branches. It's probably, to go from that side to this side over here, it's probably 15 feet long and about 10 feet wide and 5 foot high of just branches that are stacked up that I have to cut up and stuff to make them more manageable, so that way they're easier for me to store. And then down here, there's a whole bunch more. And then, as I was saying earlier, there's a nice big widowmaker up there. If you do not know what a widowmaker is, it is a very dangerous dangling piece of a tree. So when this big piece here fell down, it actually clipped an elm tree and broke the top half of it off, but the inner bark is holding it stuck. So it's just, at any moment the wind could blow and it could fall down and crush anything that's underneath of it. They're called widowmakers because, well, typically it's guys that, are in the woods and stuff back in the day as lumberjacks. And, if they messed up and it hit them on the head, they'd obviously die, and then leaving their wives a widow. So, not a very complicated name to explain, but I'm going to get off here so that way I can get busy on harvesting some tree hay. The one thing about tree hay is when it is a live tree that falls down versus when you cut it yourself deliberately. As they dry, as the leaves dry on here, if I let it go for too much longer, these leaves will actually just start falling off on their own, like when I'm trying to carry it around and that sort of a thing. So it is kind of a time sensitive thing. If you have a tree that falls down, you want within like the first 2-3 weeks of it going down to harvest all your tree hay. Then it is nice and easy when a tree has fallen to just let the leaves go brown on there, instead of trying to bind them all up while they're green or setting them someplace while they're green and then waiting for them to dry to then be able to hang them and store them and stuff. It's just much easier to let nature do her thing and dry out the leaves for you. But so if you guys are enjoying this content, please give my videos a thumbs up, share it with your friends on social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to help us grow. We greatly appreciate it. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.